In this video, I'm going to show you how you can upcycle the plastic inserts from surprise eggs into something really cute for Easter that you can fill up with tons of different treats and surprises. What you'll need for this pattern is an plastic insert from a surprise egg. You will need a plushie yarn in your chosen colors and the corresponding hook to crochet with that yarn. You will need a pair of scissors and a downy needle to sew in your ends, as well as a glue gun to glue everything together. We're going to start off by making our foundation, which is either going to be a chain 2 foundation or it's going to be a magic circle, whichever you prefer. For this tutorial, I'm going to be doing a chain 2 method for my first row, and then into the second chain from the hook, I'm going to be doing 6 single crochets into that chain. If you are doing a magic circle method, you just do 6 single crochets into that magic circle. I usually work in my tail so that I can pull it tighter in the end to tighten up the circle. Then in round 2 of this pattern, we are going to do 1 increase in each stitch around, and that will double our stitches from 6 to 12. So at the end of this round, you should have 12 stitches. In this round, I will be using a stitch marker into the first stitch of that round so that I know when I can stop and do my next round. Here we are coming to the end of the second round, and then when we work into the next round, I will take that stitch marker out and then we can move on. In the third row, we are going to be doing 1 single crochet and 1 increase, and we're going to do that 6 times. So in that first stitch, we are going to do 1 single crochet. In the second stitch, we are going to do 2, and then again 1 single crochet in the next stitch, and then 2 single crochets in the next. So you're going to repeat that pattern 6 times, and then you'll be left with 18 stitches for this round. Now we have a really nice circle shape, so we want to start giving it some length. So for the next 3 rounds, so from row 4 to 6, we are going to be doing single crochet in each stitch all the way around. Here we are coming to the end of row 4, and then when I take the stitch marker out, that will be the first stitch of row 5. And just a reminder, row 5 is also a round where we're doing 1 single crochet in each stitch around. Now we are approaching to the end of row 5. When I remove the stitch marker, that will be the first stitch of the 6th round, and that is our last round for this half of the egg. This will also be the last row where we are doing 1 single crochet in each stitch around. Now we are at the end of round 6, and we are going to finish off this round by slip stitching and cutting our yarn, and we're going to leave a long enough tail that we can sew it to the other half of the egg. So clip it off, and we will then also sew in the ends. Here I'm taking my downing needle, and I will be sewing in the end, which was the beginning tail when we first started this half of the egg. So I'm going to just very lightly sew in, zigzag the end and cut it off. There will be a lot of fluff. Here we are going to leave this tail for the sake of the sewing the pieces together. What we're going to do now is we are going to repeat this process again. We are going to create another half just like we did, and we're going to have 2 identical halves that we will then later sew together. So go ahead and pause this video here, create your second half of the egg, and then we will meet back again to sew it all together. Now that we have our 2 identical halves, identical both in length and in width, we are going to take one end. You only really need one of the finishing ends to use to sew the 2 together. You're going to use your downing needle, and you are going to place the stitches 3 stitches across. You're going to put them together. Try and identify where you kind of finished off on the eggs. You're going to put those 2 together. That will be the back of the piece, or where the hinge of the egg will be. You're going to take it and you're going to sew across 3 stitches, making sure to go in the front and the back of each loop. Go across 3 stitches. That's the kind of width that you need. And then once you have sewn across those 3 stitches, you can finish off, make a knot, and sew in that end. Here you will see that I struggled a little bit to try and find a place where I could put the hook in. With all the fluff flying around, it can happen. And more fluff. The fluff never ends. Now we have our very identical egg. You can now take your plastic insert and make sure that it does actually fit, and it actually conceals the whole plastic egg inside. If you're making the bunny version, what you need to do is make the base shape, which is exactly what we've done before. Just make sure that you are doing it in the colors that you want your bunny to be. And then what we'll do is we'll make the 2 ears that we will eventually sew on. So for this, we are going to start by making our foundation, which is either going to be a chain 2 foundation or a magic ring, whichever your preference is. Mine is a chain 2, so I'm chaining 2, and into that first chain from the second chain from the hook, I'm going to be putting 4 single crochets. So I have 1, 2, 3, and 4 single crochets. That is technically row 1 for this ear. The row 2, we are going to do 1 single crochet and 1 increase. We're going to do that twice. So we're going to mark that first stitch with a stitch marker and then into that second chain. It can be a little bit difficult because the 4 stitches feel like they're sitting right on top of each other, but wiggle your hook in there and you'll be able to get that second stitch in there. So that is my first increase. I'm going to do 1 more single crochet and then another increase. Because we only have 4 stitches, you may find that your work tends to want to stay inside out. So before I carry on, I'm going to be taking a thicker hook and I'm going to be pushing the base of the ear out, and that will make sure that the stitches are now the right way around. Unfortunately, because it is so few stitches, it does want to curl in a lot easier, and that curling normally happens when it's inside out. While I'm here, I'm going to clip the end of the starting tail. We don't really need that. And this round is also again a repetition. We are going to be doing 1 single crochet and 1 increase. We're going to do that 3 times. So here's my first single crochet. This next one is going to be an increase. So I'm going to be putting 2 single crochets in that 1 stitch. And I'm going to repeat that 2 more times. Now we're coming to the end of row 3. And we're starting to see the tip of our ear. This next round, we are going to be doing a single crochet in each stitch around. Let's repeat that step one more time. The next round is going to be again 1 single crochet in each stitch around. Now we're going to start tapering the ear in. So this row is going to be a decrease round. We are going to do 1 single crochet and 1 decrease, and we're going to do that 3 times. At the end of this row, you should have 6 stitches. And the next round is going to be single crocheting in each stitch around. We're going to do that for 2 rows. I'm counting here to make sure I have the right number of stitches before I go on. I have 6 stitches, so I can move on to the last round, which is going to be again 1 single crochet in each stitch across, giving us 6 total stitches. To finish this ear off, we are going to flatten it out and pinch the ends together. And right on the end there, we are going to do 2 single crochets. There are 3 stitches that line up pretty nicely, but just to make it easy to sew on later, we are going to do 2 single crochets across instead of 3. And then you can go ahead and cut the working yarn off and leave a long tail for sewing. You're going to repeat that process one more time so you have 2 ears in total. So pause this video here, crochet the next ear, and then we'll meet back once you have 2 ears. Just remembering not to cut off the working yarn too short when you finish the ear so that we can use that to sew it onto the egg. Now you're ready to sew on your bunny ears, so I'm going to show you where to place them. You have the first round, second round, and third round as we started, and you're going to be sewing the ears on between the second and third rows that we did, or rounds that we did. And you're going to line up your ear very nicely, and unfortunately in this tutorial I do it wrong right in the beginning. I do it completely wrong, but I do realize later that I've done it incorrectly, so crochet across the 2 stitches and kind of weave your ends in through the center of the egg, and then once it is securely in place you can go ahead and cut that end off. This one I did correctly. Just make sure that you are sewing in the ears along the sides of the egg, so you see where you've sewed the 2 ends of the egg together to make a hinge. You are going to make sure you're putting the ears on either side of that, because there is a front, a back, and a left and right to this egg. Here I am going back to fix the first ear that I sewed on incorrectly, so I'm making sure that I'm sewing it in between rows 2 and 3 of the egg. Now that you have your little bunny ears on, before we stick the egg insert or the surprise egg insert into the actual crocheted egg that we made, you want to do all your sewing and your details. So if you are wanting to add eyes, or if you are wanting to add noses, flowers, all of that, any type of sewing that you want to do, sewing details that you want to do, now is the time to do it, because once the egg is glued into this crochet piece, you are not going to be able to really easily move your needle in between the stitches. Now we come to the fun part, which is gluing everything together and having our final look. So take your plastic surprise egg inserts and you are going to identify or make yourself aware of where everything is placed. So behind, at the back of the egg, you have a hinge which helps and allows the egg to open and close pretty easily. That must line up with the kind of hinge or sewing piece that you did on the egg. Another thing is when the egg is closed, it will look like there are equal parts to the egg, like it is a half-half. But there is actually a little edge which makes this, the bottom of the egg, it makes it a little bit taller. So you want to make sure that that little edge is at the bottom. It just helps things not fall out when you do actually open your egg. Now what I like to do is just before I glue my insert in, while the glue gun is heating up, I'm going to make sure that I know where everything is going to be glued, and then once my glue is hot enough, I will know exactly where to place things. So I'm going in and putting the nozzle of my glue gun into the egg itself. I'm not gluing the edges around. Make sure the glue stays inside the crocheted egg. Once you have the bottom glued in and you've given that a few seconds to stick, you are going to do the same thing to the top. And once that is cooled down, you can go ahead and check that everything is stuck. Here I see that my glue shifted when I was pushing the plastic insert in. So there is a bit of a gap where the crocheted egg is kind of slipping down. I'm going to stick my nozzle in between and I'm going to glue it in place. So just go around and check that everything is in place. If you need to add more glue in certain sections, you can. What does tend to happen is when you're working with the glue, it does pull some of the little ends off. So if you want, you can go ahead and fiddle around a bit and get all the fluffy bits off. But other than that, you are completely done with gluing it. I'm going to show you gluing the Easter bunny version in. You're going to be doing it the exact same way though. So identify where the back and the top bottom is of your plastic insert. And you are going to stick your glue gun nozzle into the base, making sure to get none on the outside or the top of the rim. And press down firmly while the glue cools down and sticks everything in place. There I am triple checking that I've done it the right way around. And then lastly, I'm going to put some glue in the top half. Pressing down firmly to make sure all the stitches are getting stuck down to the egg. And there you go, your Easter bunny egg is done. If you found this tutorial helpful, then go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you do want to see more tutorials like this in the future, then go ahead and subscribe. Otherwise, you can always tag me on social media, and I would love to see your creations, especially with Easter coming up. I would love to see what you are making for your family and friends. Go ahead and share it with the tag below.